Hello, welcome again to FairTax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys, still trying to defund the IRS because taxpayers matter. Craig really did a great job on this.
He did.
Yep. We got to give him credit every now and then.
Yep. Our friend Craig from Orlando, who's a professional sign painter, he made that up for us when he saw our homemade sign, you know, with the with the file folder stapled to the paint stick.
Yeah, that's called improvisation. It worked. But thank you, Craig. We appreciate that. That works well.
So, all right. So, anyways, here we are again for another weekly episode, and I want to encourage everybody, go to fairtax.org and sign up there. You can scroll down and you'll see Get Updates. You can put in your information there. You won't get spam when you sign up with Florida FairTax, but you will get emails. The Grassroots Corner by Jim Bennett. You'll get the chairman's report from Steve Hayes, and you'll get a short, brief email every Tuesday about what's going to be on FairTax Power Radio, because we broadcast live. We stream it live to Facebook that night. And then after that, I post it everywhere. We got lots of social media sites. So please sign up with fairtax.org.
And please plan to come to CPAC next year. We need 500 FairTax volunteers at CPAC next year. Of course, we don't know if it's going to be in Florida or back in D.C. But you've got a whole year to plan for it. You've got a whole year to save for it.
Yeah.
The tickets aren't that expensive. If it's just the travel and lodging and meals, it may add up a good bit. But we need, I would still love, we were the only three people at this past CPAC in FairTax gear, and we were walking up and down Broadcast Row, and Buck Sexton was there, and Ben Ferguson was there, and Fox Nation had a studio up there. You saw Tom Aarons and Lawrence Jones and Leo Terrell, a lot of folks there.
Let's give it credit to Randy Fisher. He was there for one day.
Okay, that's true.
Yep, he was.
Sorry, Randy,
he helped us out.
But we need, for every time somebody there looks up, there's somebody in FairTax gear walking by.
That would be great. And we're serious about this. We really want 500 people at CPAC next year, whether it's in D.C. or Florida. At this point, we don't know, and I'm sure they don't know either. But
unfortunately, you're on your own dime here. None of the state organizations or the national organization can sponsor anybody to go. But it would be well worth it, because if not many people show up with it, then, of course, the obvious conclusion is, people don't care about this, and we don't have to pay any attention.
It would make a big impact on them. Like Bob says, if every time they looked up, they saw somebody wearing FairTax gear.
Yeah, we need to get the political people and the media people open their eyes and get going. Okay, now we're ready to go. My favorite segment.
Okay, Congress.gov. Tell them what you're going to do.
Congress.gov. You go to Congress.gov, you put the words Internal Revenue Code in quotes into the search bar there at the top. And if you do that, as of today, when we're recording on April 2nd, you get 384 hits, provided, of course, you're looking just at legislation in the current Congress.
Yeah.
And there has been a lot of stuff introduced since the last time we looked here.
Yeah, which was a week ago. A week ago today. Well, almost a week ago. And Congress has not been in session since then, so it's still 47 days and 384. I get just over 8 proposals each day. So even though they're not in session, they're still pumping out proposals to change our tax code.
Doing stuff
at the rate of 8 per day, whether they're in session or not.
I tell you, there's too much good stuff in here that I don't have time to go through all of it.
No, we don't have time.
I'll get punched in the ribs if I go too long here. But anyway, let's start this off with H.R. 2350 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to repeal Chapter 35 related to taxes on wagering. Where do you reckon that one came from?
Taxes on wagering. So, if you're going to tax everything else, why not tax wagering?
Well, whatever. Unless you're a Dinah Titus from Nevada District 1 and you want all of the taxes in Las Vegas to be exempt, all the wagering there to be exempt. So that's what that is. Repeal. Well, of course, if they repeal the taxes on wagering, then they'll have to tax somebody else to make up the difference.
That's right. Yep. Every time you benefit one group, the rest of us have to pay for it.
I love this one. HR 2341, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to encourage domestic insources, discourage foreign outsourcing.
Well,
Pass the fair tax
Yeah.
and you've got it.
that one's a no-brainer.
That's Bill Pasquale, New Jersey District 9.
Encourage domestic insourcing and discourage. That's really broad. I mean, that's very general, but that's perfectly suited to the fair tax. The fair tax absolutely will encourage domestic insourcing and discourage domestic or foreign outsourcing.
So,
absolutely.
When the United States is the most tax-friendly country on the planet, businesses and the jobs they bring with them are going to flock here. There'll be lots more domestically produced. Much less will be forced overseas. In fact, I guarantee the fair tax would bring people home, would not force anybody out of the United States. So Representative Bill Pasquale, just jump on board with the fair tax and that will take care of what you're trying to do here. Now here's another one. This one I think I'm going to put in the Hall of Shame, and we'll revisit this one at the end of the year. HR 2305, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide a refundable tax credit to seniors who install modifications in their residences that would enable them to age in place and for other purposes.
Okay.
They don't have the text on that. I can't see exactly what they're talking about. But that's Charlie Crist from right here in Florida proposing that one.
Yeah, Charlie Crist, the community.
So I guess there are a lot of seniors here in Florida, so you give them a tax credit for installing modifications on their residence that would enable them to age in place. And I wonder if that's like putting one of those little chairs. That goes up, automatic chairs that rides up a staircase. If you
have a two-story home,
Which begs the question, if Joe Biden puts one of those on the steps to Air Force One, would he qualify for that tax credit? Sorry.
Couldn't resist, could you?
Could not resist that one, but there we go. To provide a refundable tax credit if you install modifications on their residences, just for seniors now. So you'd have to define what that is.
Well, let's see. How long have we been considered seniors? Because we've been in this house for 25 years, and we've been aging in place all the time.
Well, go tell Charlie Crist you want a tax credit. One more. HR 2304, to amend Title 2 of the Social Security Act and the Internal Revenue Code to modify the portion of wages and self-employment income subject to payroll taxes and other purposes. Again, we don't have. Again, that's another Charlie Crist one. Again, we don't have the text here, so can't see exactly what he's up to. But that sounds like it might be a step in the right direction. Payroll taxes are assessed on $1 for everybody. If they're going to be, if you're going to modify the portion of wages that are subject to that.
But you don't know what they mean by modify.
No, I have no clue. They might want to make it worse. If I know Charlie Crist, they might want to make it worse.
You know, when Congress passes legislation, when it actually passes and is signed by the president, its title usually is the opposite of what it really does. You know. Yeah, the For America Act, where we're going to raise taxes on everybody.
Okay, so there's a lot more good stuff in there. If you sort it by date of introduction, newest to oldest, there's some other stuff in there that I don't have time to get to because I don't want to get punched. Anyway, that's what's going on, and we will have another look at this next week on FairTax Power Radio.
Yep. And for now, we're going to, we had such a good time, and I think this document, last week we talked about the summary, the HR 25 summary by Kerry Bowers. Kerry Bowers is a longtime fair tax proponent and expert, very knowledgeable, extremely good with numbers.
Yeah, quite a numbers wonk. Here we go.
Yeah, he is. I mean, just like Dr. Walby. And he wrote this article that he sent us several weeks ago. The FairTax Act of 2021, HR 25, Key Points Summary. And what he's done is taken HR 25, which is 132 pages, and condensed it down to 13 pages. Actually, the text part is only 11 pages. Then he's got some tables. So he's condensed it down into plain language English so everybody can understand. There's a couple of paragraphs where he gets into the details, but still, most of it is pretty darn good and easy to understand.
Yeah, we only got to page 3
Yeah.
last week when we were working on this. We figure there's more stuff here that needs to be looked at. We will note that there is a link to this particular document in the FAIRtax Toolbox.
That's right.
On FAIRtax.org. You go to there, and I think it's under Get Involved is the main menu item. You open that Get Involved, and then the FAIRtax Toolbox is up under there.
Yep.
There's a link
Yep.
to this article if you'd like to go there and take a look at it.
Yep.
But,
Go to FAIRtax.org, click Get Involved. One of the drop-down is the FAIRtax Toolbox. You click that, and when that comes up, you'll see it in the printed documents section.
Okay, but this is the administration section. How is the fair tax going to be administered? Mm-hmm. And of course, I think you've highlighted this whole section here. The states will offer the opportunity.
So let me guess, the federal government is going to create this huge sales tax bureaucracy.
You get your little wrong button on that one, though. The states, keyword states, will be offered the opportunity to administer and enforce the sales tax as an administering state. Which is a state with a state sales tax, 45 out of the 50 you've got, who have a sales tax administering authority. Now, those administering states will be offered the opportunity, and I imagine they'll grab at it, to keep 0.25% of everything they collect. So they are incentivized, the vendors too, are incentivized to collect the tax rather than evade it. Evasion goes to next to nothing. I won't say it goes all the way to zero, but it will go next to nothing.
Yeah, it's really difficult to evade a sales tax.
What happens to those states that don't have a sales tax?
Okay, let's keep in mind 45 of the 50 states have a state sales tax. So this is very simple for them to add this to what they're doing already.
So states that are not administering states may contract with another administering state to act as their administering authority, but as authorized by the Secretary, and the Secretary will otherwise administer the sales tax in those states that are not administering. Just get the guy next door to do it for you.
Yeah. Contract with them. So for a certain fee, but yeah, that's a good way to do it. Or they can start their own sales tax agency, which they probably won't want to do. Or there's another one there that says that they can have the federal government set up a sales tax thing for them. Mm-hmm.
But I guarantee it won't be a $12 billion agency like the IRS with hundreds of thousands of employees. The federal level, all they'll have to do is receive it from the states. And again, the states have this already in place, at least 45 of them.
Yep.
That will take very little additional effort on the part of the states to do this.
Yeah.
So they got this nailed.
Yeah, because as we point out constantly, the sales tax is so much easier to administer than our current income tax.
Okay, we've talked about business-to-business taxes under the fair tax. Generally, absolutely, the fair tax is a retail consumption tax paid by retail consumers when they purchase new goods and services. Yeah. All other transactions, wholesale transactions between businesses, not taxed under the fair, because if they did that, it would just be a cost that would be passed on to the consumer anyway.
Yes, that's right.
So just
as it is now.
Let the consumer pay the whole thing in one chunk at the retail level, which is actually what happens anyway, because all these embedded taxes get rolled into the prices of what we buy. The difference would be with the fair tax, you'll see how much tax you pay on your receipt. Currently, again, we've kind of gone into this, generally about 22% of the cost of everything you buy is the cost of the income tax system being passed on to you, and you don't see that. It's just priced that way.
Yep, that's right. And when you explain this to somebody who's new to the fair tax, sometimes you get the knee-jerk reaction, oh, well, the corporations have to pay their fair share. All right, let's not be so naive, okay? As Neil Bort said over and over again on his show before he retired, corporations don't pay taxes, all right? They might write the check to Uncle Sam, but it's a cost of doing business. That cost, like every other cost of doing business, is passed on to the consumer or their employees or their shareholders. People always pay.
Yeah,
always.
I've been involved in a little exchange on Facebook with some folks. I say, listen, what happens to the cost of airline tickets when the price of jet fuel goes up? Up go the airline tickets. What happens to the cost of cars when steel and plastic and glass and rubber and everything goes into it? Costs more. Yep, up goes the price of car.
That's right.
Now, are you really so stupid as to believe that corporations will not pass on the costs imposed by a big tax on them to the consumer?
I guess there's some people that think that, corporations don't need to make a profit and they just have closets full of money. And so if the government raises taxes, all they have to do is open up the door of the closet and shovel out some more money. That's very naive, and it's not the way it works, all right? If you ever worked in business or ran a business of your own, you'd know better.
Absolutely.
So,
now, the FairTax differentiates between small sellers and large sellers. What's that all about?
Yeah. This they even have a provision for vending machines, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, a registered seller collecting less than $20,000 in revenues annually is designated a small seller. Okay, and a registered seller collecting $100,000 or more in annually is considered a large seller. And I guess it's just left to our imagination that people in between are medium sellers. Yeah. So, anyways, and then he goes on to say that all registered sellers of properties and services must submit a report by the 15th of each month indicating their gross payments received in the previous calendar month, taxes collected, any credits, and other information that may be required by the administering authority or the secretary. Okay.
Well, let me back up too about vending machines. The price of what you get out of a vending machine includes the fair tax.
Yeah, it will. They've made a provision
the
for
folks
that.
who run the vending machines will have to remit a portion of their sales as fair tax because it's just because as anything else, it's included in the price of what you buy, including stuff from vending machines.
There are vending machines that have some pretty pricey items. It's not just candy bars and crackers, and sodas.
Yeah.
All right. There's even a vending machine for cars.
Yeah, I think they're vending machines for cars now. I've never seen one, but that would be interesting.
Anyways, so getting back to this, again, the business-to-business sales will not be subject to the fair tax because, like Bob said, all right, that is just going to complicate things, and those costs are passed on to the retail sales anyways. So there's no point in doing that.
Okay, there's some differentiation between small sellers and large sellers into how they're supposed to report things and remit things. Again, that's kind of too wonky to get into here on FairTax Power Radio.
But it is there. I mean, if you want to look it up, if you want to go to the FairTax.org, the toolbox there, you can download this thing. That information is there if you're concerned about that.
Now, I have heard some people have asked me, wait a minute, if we get rid of change the system and we get rid of the IRS, and how are we going to people report will employers still have to report what people make? So they don't have to report it to the IRS anymore. There are no more W-2s. That goes away. But what happens? How do employers report to the government what people are making for the purpose of Social Security?
That's right. All right. You want to be able to draw the correct amount of Social Security. You want to get everything that you legally have coming to you. So yes, businesses will have to report. All right. Businesses, including those self-employed, shall continue reporting earnings for their employees.
Yes. So you now report it to Social Security instead of the IRS.
Yeah.
So the Social Security Administration wants to give you stuff the IRS wants to take from you.
But it's just earnings, okay? There's no deductions, payroll tax, income tax, all that stuff. It's going to be very simple, all right? You send in, here's this person, John Smith. He earned this much. Here's a Social Security number. Sends it in probably electronically, all right, and on a secure line and so forth, and that's it. It's very simple, okay? Yes, they will have to report it for the purpose of Social Security so each employee can get the proper amount of Social Security when they retire.
That works.
It's very simple.
Okay, we saw back in Congress.gov earlier that somebody wants to modify the taxes on wagering. How does the fair tax affect gaming? That's good. You haven't highlighted any of that, but it's kind of cool. That,
Yeah.
A chance, wager, bet, lottery ticket alone is not a taxable property or service under the fair tax. How cool is that?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That's what it says.
So, taxable gaming services are defined as gross receipts. So, taxable gaming services, okay? So,
Well, if we ever go out to Las Vegas, we'll figure that out.
yeah, okay.
Exclusions and exemptions. He gets into that pretty cool.
Yeah.
No tax shall be imposed on any taxable property or service purchased for a business purpose in a trade or business, including that which is used for research, experimentation, testing, and development. Again, retail sales only are assessed the fair tax.
And this is very similar to what we were just talking about, business to business, all right? Because these expenditures are for research, experimentation, testing, and development. In other words, research.
Yeah,
They're not going to, if a company is engaging in research on what they should do, I mean, maybe it's a pharmaceutical company, maybe it's a company that makes widgets, who knows? But they're going to engage in some kind of research to determine, all right, should we modify our product? Should we come up with a new product and so forth? That is research that they'll do to potentially expand their business. Well, we want companies to expand their business, and we want them to do this type of research. So we're not going to put a tax on it, all right? They need to go ahead and do this research and determine if it's a good thing to expand their business and offer another product line. So that's not going to be taxed.
Okay, and the next item on the thing is a biggie. No tax, no fair tax on tuition.
Oh, there you go.
So if you go to college, if you go to the local community college, if you go to a private school of some kind, no fair tax will be assessed. I guess that's considered an investment in yourself. And the fair
exactly.
Tax doesn't tax
That's very similar to the research one for the businesses. People are investing in themselves to get more education, all right? Good example of this was my son, who was working in the technology field, but he could not advance to administrative position because he didn't have his 4-year degree. So while working full-time, he took 12 credit hours a semester.
Wow.
And
That's a heavy
while
load.
working full-time and supporting a family of 5. And he got his degree, and lo and behold, within a year, he got an administrative position with a sizable increase in salary.
Good.
So those efforts are not going to be taxed, okay?
All right, another one. No sales tax shall be imposed on taxable properties or services purchased for an investment purpose and held exclusively for appreciation or for the production of income. Again, only retail sales are taxed by the fair tax.
Yep. So
that's good. And
all right,
what's this?
Credits
de
and
minimis payment. Oh, that's kind of cool. Allows up to $400 in individual purchases in the calendar year. It may be imported and consumed by the same person, but not in connection with a trade or business.
I think that's for people who like vacation overseas and they buy something there, in the gift shop, or people, my wife and I have taken a couple cruises, and believe me, you can spend a lot of money on the stuff they have in the store on these ships, but and we generally don't do that. But they're saying you can buy up to $400 worth of stuff, bring it back, in your luggage and so forth, and they're not going to worry about it. That's not a big deal. Okay.
Okay. Well, we're getting farther this time than we did last time. We're going to skip down a little bit to the section on governments.
Okay.
All governments, excluding those entities designated as a government enterprise, that would be like Amtrak or something like that.
Yeah, a city bus system.
Yeah. Well, those governments will pay the sales tax on the purchase of taxable properties and services. Let me refer back to a Grassroots Quarter that Jim Bennett wrote several weeks ago when he compared the tax situation of private garbage haulers versus when the government, the city, provides the garbage service.
That's
and
right.
if you didn't tax the government, then the city provided garbage service would have a tax advantage over the private ones. There would be a huge incentive to get rid of all private call and let the government do it because they can do it cheaper, but they do it a lot less efficiently. So
usually, yes. So a government enterprise is a business. It may be run by the government, but the sales of that government enterprise will be subject to the fair tax. Yep. Okay.
All right. So
And let's see, what else we got there?
there's a section on Social Security. All employers and self-employed are required to report employee wages and self-employment income to the Social Security Administration for the accumulation of benefit credits.
Yeah, and
So again, that's not to tell the IRS
redundant.
how much you're making.
That's right. That's a simple report, and we actually that's like a repeat of another section there.
Okay, one more, almost at the bottom. Non-profit organizations, qualified not-for-profit organizations, will enjoy tax-exempt benefits similar to those allowed under the current tax system and typical to state sales taxes today.
Yep.
So again, there's a lot of good stuff in here. We've spent two episodes on it, and again, it's a condensation of the tax bill from 132 pages down to 13. And again, we would direct you to the FairTax Toolbox to go read the whole thing for yourself if you like.
You know what? Something occurs to me that we need to make this available to candidates and say the people currently in office, like my Congresswoman Kamek, all right? Instead of, maybe she could benefit by this 11 or 13 page document instead of having to read the whole 132 pages of legalese, because these folks are very busy. When you're elected to Congress, they're not just up there with their feet up on the chair, drinking coffee and so forth. These folks are moving all the time.
This should be required reading for anyone running for Congress or the Senate. And we got about 2.5 minutes left to get our call to action in.
Okay, all right. As I already mentioned, join AFFT. You can go to fairtax.org and join the Americans for Fair Taxation and help them. It is a national organization. They have sizable monthly expenses, and they could really use your help. And in fact, you can join the 1040 Club by going to fairtax.org/1040, at which time you commit to sending them $10.40 a month. That's very important for these folks. All right.
Share these videos on your social media. Tell your friends and family, and you can tell your enemies if you want to, about FairTax Power Radio. Because the more people that understand it, when we finally reach critical mass, and there are enough people out there that understand that we have a choice. We don't have to put up with the income tax system, and they will demand this. When you understand it, you'll demand it, and we just got to get more people doing that.
And we're on a lot of different social media. I posted, it's not only on Facebook and YouTube, it's on Rumble and Parler and MeWe and Gab and so forth. So we're in a lot of different, whichever social media you tend to, we're there. Okay?
Absolutely.
So, okay.
And catch Jade Wally here.
Oh, yes.
Shortly.
Later this month. All right, we'll have Jade Wally do another Wally's World. All right, you know what? We better email him and say, "Hey, Jade, it's a couple of weeks away."
So somebody sent in a question for him to dig. We're going to have to dig that up. He said he wanted a question from a listener, so I think we've got one. We just got to dig back up and get it going.
So that's good. All right.
Again, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com is our email address. You can leave us comments on our Facebook page or on some of our YouTube videos if you want to.
Yeah, write letters to the editor in support of the fair tax. You don't have to be an expert. All right, just tell them you've discovered the fair tax and you're really in favor of it.
Yeah, and if you leave us a really good question or comment, we'll probably mention you here on the air and answer it for you. So that's pretty good. But,
like in next week's episode.
Yeah, but that's going to wrap up this edition of FairTax Power Radio. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
The FairTax Guys reminding you again that the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it. Follow the FairTax Guys on social media and their own website, fairtaxguys.com, and check back every